this video, we'll discuss the features on David Miscavige's face that point to imbalances in his relationship with anger, as well as his ability for persuasion and handling attention well. Enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. We've got another face reading today. If you're new to my channel, first and foremost, welcome. Thank you for being here. But if you're new, please go watch the 5-minute crash course face reading video that I made up here. That is very important so you have a framework for how a face reading works, what it is and what it isn't, terms and terminology. It's pretty important, so go do that. If you're liking my content, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and share this with someone who you think will find it interesting. That's how my channel grows, and I would most definitely like my channel to continue to grow. So thank you for that. I'm also still coughing. I feel great overall, doing really well from the sickness I got last week. However, if you see splices in the video, you see me taking some awkward pauses or some odd breaths or some weird sounds. It's me trying to not have a coughing fit, but I am still going down that road. So all that being said, let's talk about David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology. I want to focus on two key things about David Miscavige instead of doing a full, all-encompassing breakdown. And I want to do that because you don't have to complicate face reading and you don't have to read everything in a person's face to have impact or understanding about who they are and what they can do to mitigate the stressors that might be occurring in their life given their strengths and weaknesses. So that's one layer are his wrinkles. The vertical wrinkles here, and I want you to think of that as one unit, a triad that I'm going to talk about. That's point one. Second point is Shen. How his Shen emanates from the face, and then talk about those key things in relation to his life terrain, things he can be doing to balance his life force. And that's the piece I want you to remember about face reading. Face reading is not meant to be psychic or predictive and say, here are the features on your face, therefore it says this about you, and case closed, story's over. That's not the point of face reading. The point of face reading is to say, hey, these features say this typically about most people. The question then becomes, are these themes active and alive in your life? That's part one. If they are, great. And even if they're online, things can still fall out of whack because you can underuse or overuse a gift. So you're not out of the woods just because you're living the features on your face. We have to find out, are you doing that in a healthy and balanced way? That's part one. Part two is, once we know what you're carrying, what's active in your life, then we move on to how do we engage certain lifestyle rhythms to mitigate your leakage and to make your process of living your life, given your strengths and weaknesses, a bit easier. Lifestyle augmentation, lifestyle guidance. That's the whole point. I'm not a doctor. Everything I provide to people is not medical advice. What I'm giving you are suggestions. You can take them or leave them. This is one school of thought, and there are approaches on how to navigate this territory. So I want to kind of frame that when we talk about David Miscavige, because there's a few things I want to stress about him. So first and foremost, the wrinkles. Anytime we say wrinkling on the cheeks or dimpling of any kind, okay, this is a fire element metric, which relates to being seen, being social, just external extroversion tendencies. But what it points to is attention seeking. The person handles attention well, they want attention, they're wired to handle attention, or they're simply capable of not having it bother them that much, or they really want it or need it at an interpersonal level. So that's one. He's also got these lines here, and the way I saw his face when I looked at him in terms of dominant features were these wrinkles and these stood out kind of like as a triad, like a triangle. It's the same intensity and kind of the same congruency. It's the same style of wrinkles in a sense. And so this area relates to anger, frustration, irritability. On the positive side, grit and determination. But when we see these wrinkled, especially when the face is at rest or when a person is smiling, typically this is an indicator that the metrics for anger, frustration, and irritability have been overused a bit. So I have these lines a little bit too. You probably notice in my videos when I talk and I think I get these, okay, and if I push really hard, I get horizontal ones as well. So I'd be lying to you to say that anger has never been an issue for me throughout my life. I'm not an angry person externally. I don't scream at the baristas. I'm not yelling at clerks. I'm not screaming at my kid. I don't lose my top. I actually have a pretty long fuse. But anger, feeling it, expressing it, learning how to channel it well, I definitely kind of have a hot liver, and I've been known to have a temper in the past. It's much better now, but I still have to watch it. I got to pay attention to it. Me studying martial arts was one of the things that helped me regulate that, channel that, and balance that in a very balanced way. So that's just something to consider. I carry these as well. So when I see these on David Miscavige, these dominant wrinkles, it means these themes are probably going to be active in his life to some degree. He should be leaning into these things. And I would say, given his public image in terms of Scientology, what he does, how much he's seen, how much he does, all of that stuff, he is living out those attention metrics to a certain degree. He's absolutely having a position in his life where he is getting lots of attention. That's definitely one. So he's living the metrics. But it also looks like he's angry. And in reading about him, again, not being psychic or predictive, but in reading about him online, watching the current documentary called Going Clear on Netflix right now, used to be on HBO for years, but now it's on Netflix. It's a documentary about Scientology and groupthink and how cults work and what happens to people and how their moral compass can be degraded by being in groupthink. I know from, at least according, there are many allegations from people within the church who are excommunicated, who have left, saying that he's a very angry person, very physically abusive. People said that he has punched, kicked, assaulted them. Allegations, not making claims here, but a lot of people have said that. So there definitely seems to be some validity to an overuse of anger as a means to kind of decompress the emotional terrain, and then also seeking a lot of attention. Those are like big components to think about. So again, looking at his face, it's like, okay, so he's living these metrics, right? These things are showing up because the wrinkles are there. He's got these, he's getting a lot of attention. The thing in terms of lifestyle augmentation I would be asking him about is, so first of all, these look like they're alive in your life, but how are you doing with that? How are you digesting that attention? Has it thrown other areas of your life out of balance? And my guess is, yeah, it probably has. So when a person has anger lines, okay, and you can see them at rest, or when a person is smiling, they're going to need a very real dialogue with robust physical exercise. The reason for that is that how we decompress the liver regulates the free flow of emotions in the body according to Chinese medicine. It also regulates anger and irritability and the connective tissue in the ligaments. So you can get all those bangs for $1 by exercising. Exercise will move blood, move that through the body, kind of decompress the liver. When we exercise or we strength train, we're using the ligaments and the tendons. And for a person like this, if I see those lines, I'm like, you're going to have to probably lean into those metrics more than the average person just to keep that anger readily digested, to make sure it does not stagnate. So that'd be part one, very robust exercise routine for a guy like this. Now with that attention, when we get a lot of attention, I've done videos on this, and I've talked about this too, celebrities in general, I think celebrities struggle a lot and are not always mentally stable because they have, for one, they're creative, they're artists, so with that comes a certain level of chaos in the creative process. And then two, they get a lot of unconscious prayer through attention. So there's lots of scientific research around the science and the power of prayer, why prayer works. They did this study back, I think it was in the late 90s or early 2000s, where they had 1,000 people in Washington, D.C. meditate for one day. And what they saw in that one day was a 30+% decrease in crime across the entire city. And they were like, whoa, time out. Like, what the hell? Why? How did that work? And they don't fully understand it. But when many minds come together and focus on something, okay, and they have quantum physics experiments, the electron slit experiment, when the nature of the observer, when we look at something, how we look at reality seems to have an impact on it. And so if you're a celebrity or you're someone in the limelight like this and you have millions of minds looking at you, and I think in this case, given the reputation that Scientology has, there's a lot of unconscious thoughts coming your way, and I think that's highly stressful. So the counterpoint, my lifestyle guidance would be to a guy like this, things to consider, right? Not medical advice, but suggestions would be go to Vipassana, a Vipassana retreat where you go into a dark room with eye coverings for 6 days and there's no talking. People feed you, you take a rope to the bathroom, but your body naturally produces DMT, The mind gets into very introspective and expansive places. But for someone like this who's getting all of this attention, very likely looks like he's probably a bit of a pressure cooker. That would be the counterpoint. And so this is kind of where like lifestyle guidance comes in. You have to take elemental rhythms in terms of all this fire exposure and getting him into a place of stillness and quiet as a means to preserve his life force so that he didn't go completely crazy. So the last part here is his Shen. When I look at his Shen, I'm going to be blunt and simple. He looks angry. He looks like a guy who drinks whiskey and smokes cigars, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't, given his Scientology practices. I don't think that's what they do. But he does look like a weathered, like he looks mad. And you could argue, sure, well, Gray, you just went online and saw that he was angry, and you're just saying he's angry. No. According to face reading theory, he's got the markers for someone who looks angry. You know, the liver lines in particular, but also just the countenance of the face. There's something gruff and firm about that face. And that doesn't mean he would necessarily be angry. But I would be asking, I'd be like, yo, you're carrying the markers. I'm going to ask the question. And if it's not, you know, you're an exception to the rule, cool, we'll go to something else. But I would be asking. And so when you see that in the Shen, that intensity, that's something to look at. And he does have, I would say, direct wood luck energy. So I make a joke about this, that wood luck, there's fire, earth, metal, water, or wood luck, the 5 elements. Wood luck is a lot like luck by force. Like you kind of push your way into lucky situations, and the person is very persuasive and direct in their approach. And if you look at David Miscavige, there's something very, very direct about that guy. In interviews when he's talking, there's something kind of bulldogish about his energy, and that's all wood metrics. The last little thing I'll say about these attention markers too that go here, it's a person who's highly persuasive. That is the counterpoint balance to needing a lot of attention, but someone who digests a lot of attention usually has the capacity, the kind of like inverse of that is they can persuade better than anybody, or not better than anybody, but very well. So these are the things I saw about David Miscavige. If you got questions, comments, please put them below. And that's all I got. Thanks.